So, as the agnostic Bermudian, now let me first say this. I recently changed my nom de plume to the agnostic Bermudian. I've gone through all kinds of iterations: Prospero in Bermuda, the impious Bermudian, and the agnostic. Now, here's the thing: I know that calling oneself agnostic is usually a deference toward atheism. No, I will admit this. I have fallen outside the Christian camp, but I, I still my instinct is to want to fall back within it, and I'll admit, it has a lot to do with my upbringing. The way I see the world tends to be Christian. I'm leaving myself naked and open, going, how the hell else can I see the world? And this actually brings me around to the video. So what I'm going to say is in philosophy we recognize a difference between soft and hard agnostic. So a soft agnostic is somebody who says, I genuinely don't know, whereas a hard agnostic is someone who says, I don't know, but I also know that your religions are bullshit. So I would say a hard agnostic is basically just an atheist who doesn't want to bear his burden of proof in a debate, so he'll say he's agnostic, just so that he doesn't have to he doesn't have to just break down the Christian arguments, but he's got to raise a scaffold of why atheism is true. To steal something from Bill Craig. So I call myself a soft agnostic. I'm like, I really don't know. But I will also completely admit that there's so much about Christianity that I wish was true. And there are certain things I wish weren't. And if my personal, I won't say God. Well, exactly. See, it's the thing. I still think of it within Christian terms. I still think when I say I love Dionysus, because he's the god of theater, he's the god of wine, he's the god of ecstasy, sexuality, and whatnot. That's me. Like, I might not be much to look at. I get it. But those are the three things that define Stephen Notman. Like, anyone who knows me, it's theater, alcohol, and sex. That's just kind of how it is. But I'm like afraid to say it because part of me is like still afraid that Yahweh is going to cast me into hell for saying it. So, there's still that problem. But anyway, what I wanted to talk about really briefly is the idea of inerrancy. And one of the things when I've been casting about trying to figure out, what denomination am I? Am I a liberal Christian? Am I a conservative Christian? Am I a Protestant Christian? Where am I on this whole thing? I have always been attracted to the most conservative forms of Christianity, and the one form of Christianity that is holding me back from leaving it entirely. It was Eastern Orthodoxy, because you could at least point to the historical pedigree of Eastern Orthodoxy. I know some people will dispute that, but that's usually people that come from other religious denominations. But the other, from a more Protestant perspective, is the desire to have a kind of inerrant Bible. The idea of inerrancy, when and if I'm inclined to believe in Christianity, I start to go, yes, the Bible is inerrant. Now, here's the thing, and this is a necessary kind of a moral inventory to go through. Yes, I know that sounds like an AA phrase, but, I'm just going to use it, even though I'm not using it in this context, is that I don't like the Bible, to be honest. This is a thing that I have to admit. When I try to read the Bible, I abhor it most of the time. I keep coming up keep finding phrases and stuff that makes me say either A, holy smokes, that's really bad, But again, I can look past that just by saying, look, the world's a nasty, ugly place. Maybe God is a God of war, but it's also the remoteness, the idea that I'm reading about something that happened over in the Middle East that's got fucking nothing to do with me, which is understandable if we're all Roman Catholics where they started a church that was ostensibly based on the Jewish scriptures, but by the time the Roman Catholic Church came around, it was a European religion, so they didn't really refer back to the scriptures. It was only later on when they had the Reformation that suddenly we were going back to that weird old place in the Middle East, and we discovered that Jesus wasn't a white guy with the blue eyes and a blonde beard. Which just goes to show it was always bullshit. But see, there's so many intellectual and common sense reasons to reject Christianity as being the true story, but there are. I guess it's because it's a movement that has managed to survive for over 2,000 years, that it has along the way scooped up a lot of psychological needs that people have. And one of them is the need for something inerrant, the need for something true. So when the Bible claims to be true, I really want it to be so. The idea that there could be a text out there that is free from error and is something that I can rely on is so appealing, because I have thought so deeply. I've gone the road of Nietzsche. I've gone down the road and realized that everything that we read is just fragments of truth. See, what Nietzsche did was he heard about all these things that claimed to be true, and then he realized that they were all just fragments. I'm actually starting it kind of from the other end, going, I believe everything is just fragments, and then I hear about this Bible that is inerrant and true, and I want it to be, right? Because if you spend enough time, 47 years as I have, on this crazy circus, you discover that life, the process of articulating ideas, that the process of discovering truth is put it this way, you don't have to take magic mushrooms, you don't have to take ayahuasca. I'm not against those things. I took mushrooms in my youth, and I think it did have an effect on me years down, but a good one. But I haven't gone on an ayahuasca journey yet. But my point is that if you really think hard and deeply and keep an open mind, you're never going to be a joiner. Maybe this is because I did mushrooms years ago and I just have not understood the consequence of it. I've joined various churches. I've joined the Freemasons. I became Catholic. I've joined various things, but never been a joiner. I've never been able to stay within them because I've always been an independent thinker. Now, of course, when you're an independent thinker and you leave these things, that leaves you open to people saying you're self-absorbed, you're a narcissist, you're problematic, you're not a team player, you're not this or that. And yes, and so many jobs as well. It's like you join a team, and if you think for yourself and you're not a person that just submits and joins, because your mind naturally is always finding the cracks and the grooves in the power structure and the inerrant ideas that grow up around that particular thing. So it's like, so what I'm saying is, no company is going to admit to being inerrant, but they will always have a kind of corporate, statute of expectations or behavior or whatnot, and that functions as your Bible and your inerrant thing that you're supposed to follow. The Bible is just like an early obvious example of that, and it's a very long and detailed one, but for anyone that has actually gotten to the point where they've realized that all of these are just social structures and artifices, it's very hard to put yourself under one. And if you do, you only do it because you have to. You know, I've been told that by saying that you're just in a lesser stage of development, that if you understand how the world really works, then you can, yes, you wake up from that and you get to like stage 2 or 3 and you figure out the rules of the world. Well, maybe that'll happen. But I get it. That's those are the very manifestations of the matrix that we feel like we're in all the time. It does feel like we're always in these different systems. And so the point I'm making is that, there are a lot of people that I know that are, working jobs and in big companies and all that absolutely despise the Bible or just thinks it's bullshit and, stupid. But at the same time, they live in absolute terror of their human resources manager, because there's there are stone tablets that came down from Mount Sinai, if you will, in a figurative sense, that are dictating their behavior. And that's how we are as humans. So I've made this video. What's the closing point? The closing point is simply, I wish God was real. I still do believe in a God, but I'm recognizing that the one that we've been using for the past 2,000 years has been sort of like the human resources manager. That priests and so on have been the human resources manager in this great big corporate entity that started with Roman Catholicism, and then apparently tried to do its own thing, but they broke off from the corporation. But then they still have their elders. And then they just split off entirely. It's still a corporate idea. Priests are just your HR department. Now you have HR departments, and they're espousing ideals that we think are absolutely awful from a Christian point of view, but it's still the same. It's still the same structure. It's still appealing to weird ideas of equality and so on that are perversions of Christian truths. But if Christianity isn't true, how do we get past this? I think Nietzsche's right. We're gonna have to go through this like weird period of craziness to get back to what is probably a more Hindu, Indian, hierarchical view, which I don't want to go into right now, but I will at another date.